All right, shalom, and welcome to Yahweh's new moon, the new month celebration. Yahweh has ordained a calendar system that He has given unto us for us to be able to keep those holy days and keep those things. It is written that you must keep them in their appointed season. For us to keep track of those seasons, Yahweh has given us unmovable things, things that happen over and over consistently for us to be able to monitor our year. You have a lot of people that deal with the so-called Enoch calendar or things of that nature. You know, these things obviously had to come along a lot later in dealing with writing all of this stuff down and trying to document it. But Yahweh has given us this moon and this sun that goes through these certain phases, and you have to consider during a time, if you're just from the rural area, if you've ever lived in the country, you'll automatically find that there's a certain amount of attention that's paid more to certain things than others. In the city, you're kind of overcome by the brightness of false light, the neon lights everywhere. It is very difficult not to notice the this big bright moon when you're in the country and everything else is dark. So you have to consider during the time that our forefathers are keeping these things, they are, easily watching the moon go through the same phases. They can see it month after month. It's the very same things that happen. And then they can look at, okay, these seasons come and show up without fail. So when you get back to what's written in Genesis, Yahweh says, I have given them for signs, seasons, days, and years. And when you examine what them is, it is the sun and the moon. What the heathen has given us is a solar calendar, and some Hebrews follow a completely solar calendar because that's what basically the Enoch calendar is, a solar calendar. They have everything divided in these nice little equal divisions and things of that nature. But what Yahweh has set up, this thing is about the orbits and the rotations, and all of those things continuously happen without fail. So that is what our new moon. So if you've never kept a new moon is basically a new month. And when you deal with what happens on a new month, the earth, the sun, and the moon are in complete alignment. That's why the moon is dark. You can't see it. There's always one part of the moon that's lit at any given time. Is just not visible to you. So when all of those three things are in line, that is a new moon. What they call an eclipse is basically it shifts in its angle, because it's kind of like this. Then when it shifts and it completely blocks, then that's an eclipse. So you're still looking at the same thing. You're looking at these things happen on a new moon. And Yahweh is an Elohim of order, and that is order. We're not going to keep you guys very long tonight. We're just going to go over a few things. Since we do have Pentecost coming up, we're going to go over what that Pentecost is, understanding the Pentecost. So we're going to go to Exodus chapter 23. And Pentecost is going to be June 2nd, which is the next Sabbath, not the Sabbath coming up, right? Is it, well, it's going to be Sabbath day night. So it's going to be the second at sundown, which is going to be the third. It is always on a first day, which is Sunday. And we will go over why it is always on a Sunday. So June 2nd is the Sabbath. Earlier that day, we will obviously gather for our regular Sabbath, but then later that night, as it turns to the first day of the week, we will then have our Feast of Pentecost. So that is just basically a little over a week away. So Exodus chapter 23, and let's read verses 14 through 17.
3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, in the time appointed of the month Abib.
Now, Abib is basically green ear. So we notice this is that part where everything starts back growing. When you deal with the way man has his beginning of his year, it's going in January 1st. There's absolutely nothing growing. And they're also worshiping the pagan god Janus. That is why it is called January. January is named after the pagan god Janus that looks in the past and in the future. And they did these mock rituals. That's what Watch Night service was for, so that you can do a mock ritual in worshiping the pagan god Janus that looks into the past and in the future. That's why you had to worship him at 12 o'clock midnight. 12 o'clock midnight is the only time that you can actually look into the past and in the future. So you have to be, because they don't count their day. They don't count their day at sundown, the way that the Bible has it set up. They count their day according to 12 o'clock midnight. Soon as midnight strikes, boom, it's another day. So in the church, they had you turn around, look the other way, do your little chants, and turn around, and then you did the other part of the chant right at midnight, and you just did this mock ritual. So people in the church were basically doing the same things that people in the club were doing. They were all sitting there worshiping this pagan god. But the church people thought that they were doing something holier when they were keeping this thing. They thought that they were doing something that was much better than what was going on in the club. But it was essentially the same thing. It was the worship of this pagan god. Go ahead.
For in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Verse 16.
Go ahead.
And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Adonai Yahweh.
3 times in the year, all males must make an appearance before Yahweh. Now, you have to also look in here that especially if you're new to this, it'll throw you off, because some of these feasts have more than one name. So you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. If you get into verse 16, it then says, and the Feast of Harvest, the first fruits of your labor, which you have sown in the field. All right, that's the second one. Then you have, and the Feast of Ingathering, which is in the end of the year. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 16, and you're going to find those same things listed, but they're going to be called by, 2 of those will be called by a different name. Deuteronomy 16, and let's read verses 16 and 17.
3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Okay, that's the first one. We know during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, within that 7-day feast, we will have an appearance there. Go ahead.
And in the Feast of Weeks.
Now, Feast of Weeks, before, it called it the Feast of Harvest. So Feast of Weeks and Feast of Harvest is the same thing. Go ahead.
and in the Feast of Tabernacles.
So Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Ingathering is the same thing. So understand, sometimes, you know, people will look and say, well, I'm counting way more feasts than what it says. But when you look at how you count your Feast of Harvest, you will understand why it's called, you know, also the Feast of Weeks. Keep going.
And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able.
Every man shall give as he is able. Now, this is one of the things that we've seen. Some Christian organizations will also keep some of these feast days, but they, of course, will do it out of filthy lucre's sake, because all males must make an appearance, and all males must give as they are able. But what we found when we look at the way they did this, of course, they do it and tell the people that they must bring a certain amount. They need to show up with $500 or $1,000. That way they can go ahead and count everything that they supposed to get before they even show up. And we have allowed ourselves to be ruled over in that manner. Go ahead.
According to the blessing of Yahweh, your Elohim, which he has given you.
According to the blessing of Yahweh, your Elohim, which he has given you. Yahweh knows what he has given you. So you can do whatever it is you feel like you need to do. Yahweh knows what he has given you. Thereby understanding that Yahweh knows what is adequate for you, and he knows what is not adequate for you. Nobody else can tell you that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23, and let's read verses 1 through 22.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest, an holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahweh in all your dwellings.
It is the Shabbat of Yahweh in all your dwellings. Your dwellings is where you live. It doesn't matter where it is you end up living. The Sabbath is the Sabbath. And when you deal with this, before he gives you this breakdown of the holy days, he starts off letting you know what the holy days are based on. These 3 feasts where he says 3 times in the year, all males must make an appearance. That's 3 of the 7 feasts. Males don't make an appearance at every feast, but they must make an appearance at 3 times throughout the year. But when you get this and he starts to get ready to go into these holy days, he first mentions the Sabbath, because that is what everything is based off of. Even when you deal with the Sabbath itself, is based on the 7 days of creation and the rest that he rested on the 7th day. So when people start to tell you that there's another worship day because of the day that the Messiah rose, there's already a holy day that was set for the day that the Messiah rose, and that's the Feast of First Fruits. So he was raised as first fruits on first fruits. There didn't need to be any changing of the Sabbath. See, you change the Sabbath, now you have defiled all these other things. And you notice that people who do not keep the Sabbath, they also don't keep the holy days. So once you defile one, with the rest of the things being based on it, you have to defile everything else. It's like building a house. If you mess up the foundation, it really don't matter how pretty your paint is. It really doesn't matter how nice the granite countertops are. You mucked up the foundation. The whole house ain't worth jack. And soon as they inspect it, there's certain people who have done work and did it out of order, and the building inspector came through and said, oh man, this is really nice. Knock it down. Now they got about $50,000 in. Oh yeah, this nice. Knock it down. What's with this knocking down stuff? See this foundation part right here? See this right here? See this right here? You didn't get your inspections before you kept building. See? So now you got to knock all this down and start over. And if you done ran out of money, that's your problem. That's not his problem. So once they messed up the foundation, there was no getting back on track anywhere else down the line. Once you defiled the Sabbath, you can't keep any of these holy days. So then you got to tell the people that you don't have to do it because they can't back up and do it. Now, we've had people, and we know what they had to do it, that we've had Sunday keeping churches who kept Pentecost on the same day that we kept Pentecost. And we know for them to go to church on Sunday and to still have the Pentecost on the same day that we had it on, that means they counted when the Passover was. That means they then counted from that Passover. They knew when the New Year was. They knew when the new moon was. They knew when Passover was. They knew when the Feast of Unleavened, Feast of First Fruits was. They knew when the next Sabbath was after that, and then counted 7 Sabbaths. They knew all of that, but didn't keep none of it. But then showed up that Sunday telling the people that they need to have a $500 or $1,000 offering. And you know the people showed up with it. So they knew all of that, but didn't keep it. Because they couldn't explain it in that manner, because then the people would have understood, well, we've defiled all this other stuff leading up to this Pentecost. How do you then keep this Pentecost? And the reason some of them will keep Pentecost is it's always on Sunday. See, Saturday night is the beginning of Sunday. But they won't have theirs on Sunday morning. We will have ours Saturday night. So Pentecost seems to be a favorite among Sunday churchgoers because it will always be. They don't have to do nothing extra. All they got to do is say they already showing up on Sunday anyway. Now just tell the people, hey, you need to bring a special offering this Sunday. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 4. These are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their season.
You shall proclaim in their season. So all of these things are going to happen in the same seasons year by year. Go ahead.
And the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto Yahweh.
And Abib corresponds to the ending of March and the beginning of April. It will not always be, because the new moon doesn't happen on March 1st or April 1st or something like that. So it will always be toward the ending of March, toward the beginning of April, which is where that new moon will fall, because that's when the spring or vernal equinox happens. This is when the earth starts to tilt toward the sun, and then all your days start to get warmer, thereby inspiring growth again on the earth. There's nothing growing in January. January can't be the beginning of anything. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Then there's this growth that's happening. Ain't nothing growing in January. All the leaves gone. Go ahead.
7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day is an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
So in addition to our weekly Sabbath, we then have Sabbaths that are within these holy days that Yahweh has proclaimed that they are Sabbath. So they're Sabbaths no matter what day they fall on. But you have people that like to tweak the calendar so that all of these things fall on these certain numerical days. They need to fall on this day, but they can't fall on a Friday, but they have to fall on this day. So it's a lot of twisted things going on. Any day that Yahweh says is a Sabbath, no matter whether it happens on the first day, second day, third day. He already has the 7th day set up as a Sabbath. But then there's certain of these holy days, no matter where they fall, they will be a Sabbath. So you can have 2 Sabbaths back to back. You can have your weekly Sabbath, and then if the holy day comes that next day and it's a Sabbath, you can have 2 Sabbaths back to back. Or you can have a high holy day where the weekly Sabbath falls at the same time a holy day Sabbath falls. That ends up being a high Sabbath because it's 2 Sabbaths at the same time. One for the holy day and then one for the weekly Shabbat. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Right. The whole part about giving the offering and the part of giving honor unto Yahweh is that you are giving the sheaf of your first fruits. That is the first part of your growth. The first part of the substance that comes unto you. Not the stuff that you done picked through and left over, and then you done ate all the good fruit, and then you get Yahweh the little leftover fruit. I don't want that. Ain't that the stuff that was at the bottom of the basket? Ain't that your stuff you done bruised and then you step on that stuff? You don't want that stuff. So Yahweh, to show honor unto him, you take that first part of what's there and you set it aside. That's Yahweh stuff right there. And these are things that you have to, Yahweh puts us in a mindset to go through these things several times over and over throughout the year. Set aside the first for Yahweh. He's got this set aside the first for Yahweh. What we have been taught is all about monetary things. Eventually you got to start doing those things where it's certain times that you have that are free time to you, that you start setting aside. No. This Yahweh time. See, the first fruit of your money is the beginning of it. The biggest part of that is the first fruit of your time. See, a lot of times we don't want to start reading the Bible till it's like the end of the day. And Yahweh, you got about 2 more minutes of wake brain left. And then you want to say, all right, now I'm going to read the Bible. And then the adversary starts singing to you, woo, 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 skibbity bop. Don't you want to go to sleep, Esaac? You're right. And you gone, Jack. Because you didn't set aside no time for him. That wasn't your first fruit. That was your last fruit. You gave him your last fruit. The last part of your day when you are the weakest, the drunkest, the dumbest. Because let me tell you something. The later they get in the day, you fine. You kind of stupid. There's some times that I might be doing something, I'll be like, I need to go to bed because my brain is not working. You ever seen that little thing on the computer when it said, you are working on 13% CPU power? Yeah, that's what ended up happening. The later it get, your brain, and you just start doing dumb stuff, you be like, brother, I don't think you're on full CPU power because you got that stupid look on your face. So you got to know, it might be time for me to go sit down somewhere because my decision-making skills are not quite up to par. And this the time you want to get a Yahweh? And that's the time that the adversary of the devil say, see, you can't even understand this stuff. Just going to go to bed. Just going to go to bed. Skippity bop. Good night. Go to bed. You don't want to read this stuff. You can't even understand this stuff. Doesn't thou thithereth? Man, come on, man. Go to bed. Right. But let an all-night marathon of scandal come on. We popping noodles and drinking coffee. Right. The adversary don't seem to tell you to go to sleep when scandal on. You ever notice that? He don't whisper in your ear when you watching scandal. Let you be watching some mess. He let you stay up all the time. Start reading this book. He gonna start blowing all in your ear. Stop that, devil. Right. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 11. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it.
On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it. Go ahead.
And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf an he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahweh. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of an hin.
Now, meat just means food. Meat does not mean flesh. So when you talk about a meat offering, and then it's talking about something mingled with flour, a lot of times, people are like, well, this is a cake. This ain't got no meat in it. Meat does not mean flesh. Meat means food. So understand what that is when you're reading that. And of course, then it says the drink offering thereof shall be of wine. Of course, we've been told by the church that, hey, we too holy to drink wine. We can't be drinking that stuff. We are way too holy to drink wine. But that's not what this book says. See, for they being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness, they have gone about to establish their own. And in doing so, they have not attained unto his righteousness. Go ahead.
And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
So this is the time where this first fruit is offered. And if that first fruit offering is not offered, then all of these things you are forbidden from eating. And if you look at what parched corn, bread, or, green ears is, and what all is made out of that, you basically can eat absolutely nothing if you don't offer your first fruit offering. So Yahweh kind of pushed you to following his commandment. Yahweh kind of has a tendency to do that. He is, told the men of Israel, you shall not mar, which is cut, the corners of your beard. Now, that was only given to the children of Israel. Every other people on the earth can shave every day. Black people shave. You have to train your face to take that razor. Your face, the hair will curl up and go back up into your skin and start making these bumps, and you'll be scratching like a dog. You'll be scratching with your foot, Jack. I'm talking about you at it. Right. Yahweh made your face revolt against you because you won't keep his law. Gentile can shave every day for 50 years straight and never get a hair bump. Africans be 50 years old and don't even have no hair. They be 50 years old and they end up having a little boy mustache right now. Like, he's 50 years old. He look like my boy. He got that. So they don't have that problem. Nobody has that problem but us. Because you're the one that the law was given to. So here it is. He makes certain things. If you don't make this offering during the first fruits, then now you're cut off from eating these things. And by the way, those things have now, you're dealing with your first fruit. So imagine, if you've ever, y'all ain't got no kids, y'all understand it. But when you go to the store and you show up with groceries, them the time that the kids are the most helpful. Oh my God. They going through the bag. They not really trying to help you. Okay. All right. They going through the bag because they trying to see what is in these bags. What am I going to eat first? Well, consider that when you talk about this first fruit, all of this stuff just became ripe. All this stuff is now just picked. Now you got this new stuff that you can't eat because you didn't make your offer. So show up with, you want to know what that's like? Show up with some groceries. Put them all on the counter and let the kids look at them and tell them they can't eat none of it. See what happens. See how much peace you have right there when you do that. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Shabbats shall be complete.
Right. Now, this is how we know that a moving Sabbath can never have been part of the plan, because it's going to tell you what 7 Sabbaths is going to be. Go ahead.
Even unto the morrow after the 7 Shabbats shall you number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh.
Right. 7 times 7 is 49. Even the morrow after the Sabbath is the 50th day. Now, some of the folks try to say, well, we count 7 Sabbaths and then we add 50 more days to it. Well, you on the strangest thing ever. But even as you keep reading, they still can't maintain that. Because then when you get to 7 Sabbaths a year, it says 7 times 7 is still 49 years. So that lie ain't going to hold up. But you got to know to go. This ain't the only place. Leviticus 23 is the thing dealing with the 7 weeks. You go to Leviticus 25, it starts going through the Sabbath of years. So that's when you go get your these people who do the little Enoch calendar. Then you bring them to Leviticus 25. If they try to tell you, because see, I've heard some try to get around Leviticus 23, because it says in verse 16, even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. That is your 50th day. The morrow after the 7th Sabbath. So they'll try to say, no, you take 7 Sabbaths, then you add 50 days. All right, so let's say you're able to get away with that mess. Let's then go to Leviticus 25, and when it count 7 Sabbaths of years, let's see, did they add another 50 to their 49 then? No, you can't find that. See, so everywhere you have to learn to do the same thing that we read last night in Bible study about what Yahshua did to the adversary. The adversary read one verse, instead of, telling him you a lie, he went to another verse and put that thing back into its correct context. And you're gonna see that no matter who it is you're dealing with, whether they be a Christian or Israelite, they're gonna take a scripture and try to tell you that it means one thing. You have to take that thing and put it back into context. Go ahead.
Verse 17. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh.
And mentioning that, I sent out 3 questions so y'all can get to several people. Abby is the only one who has sent her email back to me answering her question. All right, and see, I can tell by the roll that I just heard over here. You know what I'm saying? That they said you don't never gotta ask, okay, which one of these dogs got hit? Just look for the one that's going, right. So we know we got at least one hit dog in here. We sent out 3 emails because y'all gotta get used to answering, these questions. I got back 1 email, but I've sent 3 questions out, and these are questions that people have asked through from the internet. Now understand, me and Leah go through these so much. Y'all stumbling over 1 question. We go through about 4 or 5 of these in one night, and we still got other stuff going on. It ain't like the world just, wait a minute, so I got questions. No, man, we still got to do everything else we got to do. Y'all can't be tripping over these 1 question. And quit giggling, you holler. You just ain't got yours yet. Go ahead.
And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before Yahweh, with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priest.
Go to verse 22.
And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not make clean riddance of the corners of your field when you reap it.
Right. He said you shall not mar the corners of your beard, and you shall not reap the corners of the all of the harvest of your field. You shall not go back and glean your vineyard. Because see, everything don't get ripe at the same time. So you don't just pick stuff just because it's there. So you go through it when the majority of that stuff is there. Then afterwards, these other things that were not right, then they turn around and then they're right to the point of picking. That ain't for you. And that part is hard for us to get through our head, that we got land, but everything on the land ain't for us. Because we've been taught that everything is for us. Now see, that don't happen with a check. Ain't no part of the check that come through, and that Yahweh say, all right, now this the corner of your check right here. See, you get this ain't for you. No, we don't think. We think everything that come to us is ours. And we can do whatever it is we want with it because it came on our check. This our stuff. I'm spending it all on me. I'm having 100% me fest. Yes, I am. I'm gonna buy stuff I don't even need right now, but it's gonna be for me. Right. And we get accustomed to that and we think that's normal. It's not. It never does occur to us that everything that is given to us is not for us. This is how Yahweh has automatically caused the stranger, the poor to be taken care of. So the poor were allowed to go into other people's fields and pick and eat. There were rules to it. Even if they went, they could pick enough for them to eat. So there wouldn't be any hungry people. Go ahead. No, that was the end of that. Let's go to Acts chapter 2. Now there's another reason why Pentecost, and why it's called Pentecost. Penta is the Greek term for 50. So 7 times 7 is 49. The next day is the 50th day. Penta means 50. So we're going to read another thing here. So, which is another reason why this day of Pentecost is kept by a lot of Sunday church going organizations, even though they don't keep any of the things leading up to it. Acts chapter 2, and let's read verses 1 through 22.
And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place.
Now, when the day of Pentecost was fully come, Pentecost is Feast of Weeks, Feast of Harvest, Pentecost, same thing. All right, so this is in the New Testament. Even in the New Testament, they're still keeping these holy days. Yet we have been told that all of this law, all of these things have been done away with. Well, if that was the case, then why are these people still gathering? Why are they still doing this? Go ahead.
And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. Right.
So understand, if you paid attention to the things that were being read in Leviticus 23, you find that these first fruits, you find that there's certain offerings that are taking place, and then there's the receiving of this thing. So now you're finding here at this Pentecost, there's then this outpouring of the Spirit that's happening. This is another reason why the Sunday church goers are still emboldened to keep Pentecost, because there's this outpouring of the Spirit. And everybody claim they got the Spirit in Sunday church. All you gotta do is just get up and dance or take off running, and everybody say that they got the Spirit. Well, here is an outpouring of the Spirit. This is definitely something that they want to proclaim that they're going to be a part of. Go ahead.
And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other languages.
Other tongues are other languages. See, now this leads to the next part of this false doctrine. they began to speak as they were filled with the Holy Spirit. They began to speak with other languages. The gift of being able to speak in another language means that you can now go to a foreign place and tell them the great words of Yahweh your Elohim. It's not speaking in a bunch of goo gobbly-goo and yelling out words and just yelling out hum-da-da, brother need a hum-da, hum-da. Creflo and them said that they can teach people. They got a class on teaching how to speak in tongues. See, you just get yourself in that realm, see, and then you just go animal. Who understand what the hell that is? What is that? And if it's a gift of the Spirit, how can you teach it? See, people don't understand and recognize blasphemy when they hear it. If it is a gift of the Spirit, how can you tell me you have control over it? If you have control over the Spirit, then you must be Yahweh himself. You must be Yahshua. If you can control the Spirit to the point where you can teach it. There was a old lady that was going off because she left up out of that organization because they were telling her that, you know, they could teach people how to speak in tongues. And it is amazing, all the so-called educated young people with all these nice degrees, they still sitting there. The old lady who could barely read was going off. She said, if it's a gift of the Spirit, how you gonna teach it? Now that's an old lady. But all the educated people still standing there. Right. Go ahead.
As the Spirit gave them utterance. Verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yehudis, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
See, now you see the purpose of being able to speak in different languages. You having people from other nations. Ain't no need of me to speak to Eliel in tongues. I need to speak to Eliel in tongues. I'm going to speak to him in this tongue, the one he understands. Now, he can speak in another tongue when he go into that patois. Yes, animal. Hey, bro, hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. I ain't Jamaican, bro. I'm telling you now. I know I got a lot of Jamaican friends, but don't get it twisted. I ain't Jamaican. You need to speak that to Kish. I don't understand that. See, that's an unknown tongue to me. You understand? So when he going through all his, you know, hey, bro, hold on. I need to stop you right there, bro. We can go ahead and stop this conversation, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. So unless you can speak words that Esaac can understand, then you need to stop talking to Esaac. See, you understand? That's how that need to go. There ain't no need you talking to me if you talking in words that I can't understand. How is it going to be fruitful for me that you just yelling a bunch of gibberish? How is that fruitful to me? If somebody just walk up to you and start talking Spanish, hey, bro, what? And what happened when you start talking to the Mexicans or whatever, and this mean nicely. Get the hell on. That what this mean. They smile. They smile and they let you know, hey, look, hey, I don't understand that you saying. They just smile and nod. It'll be this way or this way. But they're not gonna talk back to you. Eventually they say, no English. Stop talking to me, man. Go on. I don't understand what you're saying. So it don't matter how long I sit there and yell. I can yell English words louder. It still ain't gonna make him understand. He don't understand English. But somehow we don't let somebody fool us into believing that when we just yell out some things, we're speaking to the Spirit. See, what that means is there's no language or tongue that the Spirit can't understand. So if you're speaking in any language, remember, Yahweh was the one who confounded the languages. Yahweh was the one that made people speak different languages. He said, look, all these people are together, and this they begin to do. Split them up and confound their language so that they are not able to communicate with one another. So people are like, well, God wants us all to be together. Well, what the hell he confused us for then? Why would he confuse the languages and say, all y'all need to be together? All right, now you speak patois, you speak this. Hey, Yahweh, wait a minute. But I don't understand what he's saying. Yeah. But I thought you wanted us to all be together. That don't add up. If you want people to be together, you have the same language. He was the one that divided the languages. So when people try to give me all of this thing, like we supposed to all just be together, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't compute according to what's written in my book. If you go to somebody's house and they got a cat and a dog, you'll see the cat and the dog because they have been forced into this house together. They'll sit there together. But ain't damn time you look down the street and you saw a cat and a dog just walking, just there, we hanging, dog. You know what I'm saying? And they just going on about they be, you don't see that. You don't see that. See the cats, they hang out with other cats. And the dogs, they hang out with other dogs. See? You just don't see a cat and the dog hang out. See? The cat say, look at me, I'm finna go climb this tree. The dog said, well, I'm finna go pee on it. You know what I'm saying? See? That's just, they don't hang out together. And that's the way Yahweh has designed this. But people gonna tell you, Yahweh must have made a mistake. No, I think my God knew what he was doing. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together, and were confounded, because that every man heard him speak in his own language.
Wait a minute, his own language. He didn't hear a bunch of goo gobbly goo. He understood what was being said. Go ahead.
And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue, wherein we were born?
Wherein we were born. So they speaking one way, but the people are able to hear it another way. So imagine the confusion among the people if this brother starts speaking patois and then I start answering in English. And they're like, so how you understand him? I don't know. I just understood what he said. It sounds like my language to me. Go ahead.
Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia, in Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt and in parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Yehudis and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our own tongues the wonderful works of Elohim.
In our tongues, in our languages. Go ahead.
And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, What means this? Others mocking said, These men are full of new wine.
Now they'll tell you, new wine is grape juice. That was that what the church told you. It said new wine. So that's grape juice before it's been fermented, you see. Well, who you know done got drunk off of Welch's grape juice? Go ahead.
But Cephas, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, You men of Judea, and all you that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says Elohim, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh.
Right. And because everybody want to claim that they had a spirit, they want to still deal with Pentecost because of the outpouring of the spirit. Now, they don't want to do any of the stuff leading up to it, nor do they want to keep the things in its correct order. But they still want to get paid. See? That's like folk, hey, I don't want to go to work, but then they show up on payday, looking at everybody. Where my check at? You didn't come to work. You don't get no check. Go ahead.
And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaids I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I shall show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke.
Right. This lets us know that these things have not come to pass. When we deal with the redemption of the children of Israel, it is also linked to Lucifer being thrown out of heaven, and we find these same things written here. Read this verse.
The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before that great and notable day of the Adonai come.
And we know that these things ain't happened yet. So for folks to then tell us that Israel has been restored as a nation, well, that goes contrary to what's written in this book. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that whoever shall call on the name of the Adonai shall be saved.
Right. And do understand when it says call on, this is a Greek word in Strong's G1941 is epikalemai. Let me work on that one. Let me. Epikalemai. All right, that's what we're gonna go with. That's what we're gonna go with. All right, on the count of three. Epikalemai. There it is. Yeah, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay, and it says to entitle by implication, to invoke for aid, worship, testimony, decision, appeal, call, surname. These are all the possible ways in which this word can be used. So when people say just call on, they have gotten that to a point where they think they can get on their last, they can do all this hell for like 89 years and 11 months. And then right before they die, forgive me, Jesus. And they gonna wake up. Oh, nah, you gonna wake up, but you're not gonna be pleased when you wake up. See, so there's a whole lot of people that teach that thing because they don't do any definition or look at what those words and what context those words were used in. They think that means they can do all this evil for all this time and then just call on the name, and then they call on the wrong name anyway. Imagine the surprise of that. You done did 80 years worth of hell, believing you can just call on the name right before you die, and you done call the wrong name. You done waited 80 years. You done spent all that time, and then you like, Ralph. No, that ain't it. 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 And Yahshua like, who you talking to? Who the hell is Ralph? Hey, Moses, you know Ralph? Who's Ralph? I don't know who Ralph is. Right. Go ahead, bro.
You men of Israel, hear these words. Yahshua of Nazareth, a man approved of Elohim among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which Elohim did by him in the midst of you, as you yourself also know.
Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And that's all we're going to do for tonight. First Corinthians chapter 14. And let's start at verse 1.
Follow after love and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that you may prophesy. For he that speaks in an unknown tongue speaks not unto men, but unto Elohim. For no man understands him. Howbeit in the spirit he speaks mysteries.
So, not understanding this, they said, see, he doing that spiritual talk. He's talking to the spirit, see? That's why you speak that goo gobbly goo. Yeah. See, you talking to the spirit. You just can't understand spirit language, brother. Right. Keep reading.
But he that prophesies speaks unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort.
Right. They can understand the stuff that he's saying. They're able to grow by that. Nobody can grow by something that they cannot understand. Go ahead.
He that speaks in an unknown tongue edifies himself, but he that prophesies edifies the church.
If you speak in a tongue that don't nobody else understand, the only person you helping is you. Go ahead.
I would that you all spake with tongues, but rather that you prophesy. For greater is he that prophesies than he that speaks with tongues, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying.
Right. So when they had somebody there speaking goo gobbledygoo, that was supposed to be somebody else said what he said was this. So then you gotta, when they speaking in tongues, it should have been two people. It should have been the goo gobbler and been the goo gobbler interpreter. Go ahead.
Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you, except I shall speak to you either by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophesying, or by doctrine? And even things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped?
Right. They have musical notes. All right. You just can't hit any note and think that you making music. See, some people are like, no, I know how to make music. And they just make sounds. Bing, bong, bing, bong, bong. But that's not music. Them sounds. You know what I'm saying? You're just knocking stuff up against one another. That's not enough. You have to learn what a note is. See? You can't just sing in any key and be like, I can sing. Wait a minute, Brett. That's not. Now you have a voice. Because we all have a voice. But there's a thing called a note. See? So you can't just do anything. There's a reason why they have certain notes, certain tones, certain things. Go ahead.
For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle?
Right. You hear the shofar blown, which is the trumpet, we gather. But then when that's an alarm is blown, then people know, okay, something's about to go down. But if this brother get in here and start trying to play jazz with the shofar, bam, 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 people like, what the hell are we supposed to go in there? What we supposed to do? I mean, this brother, he got some wine and he got the shofar, bam, 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 bam. What is he doing? We don't know whether we supposed to come in here or not. Because that ain't the sound we normally hear. He just felt festive, you know, and he just wanted to play this thing. Like, they don't know whether or not to move. Go ahead.
Verse 9. So likewise you, except you utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? For you shall speak into the ear.
Apparently, even though people read all they deal with is the New Testament, apparently it's still certain parts of the New Testament they have not read. And I find that amazing, since all you read is the New Testament, but yet you have not come across these things. And you've been doing it for 40 years, and all you're reading is half of the book. So how is it you have not read the whole half of the book since you started in the middle anyhow? Go ahead.
There are, it may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them is without signification. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, I shall be unto him that speaks a barbarian, and he that speaks shall be a barbarian unto me.
Right. You can't understand what he's saying. You gonna look, unlearned, and somebody gonna be unlearned in the situation. Go ahead.
Even so you, for as much as you are zealous of spiritual gifts, speak that you may excel to the edifying of the church. Wherefore let him that speaks in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prays, but my understanding is unfruitful. What is it then? I will pray with the spirit, and I will pray with the understanding also. I will sing with the spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also.
Right. So ain't no need if you sing in tongues. What is that? And people supposed to follow that? Shall I wonder? Man, I ain't singing that. He could have called all kind of demons. I don't know what he's saying. Go ahead.
Else when you shall bless with the Spirit, how shall he that occupied the room of the unlearned say amen at their giving of thanks?
Right, and amen mean I agree. How am I gonna agree with that and I don't know what you said? That's like handing me a contract. Go ahead and sign that, but I don't know what it say. Go ahead and sign it anyhow. You are out of your mind. I'm not signing that. I'm not agreeing to that. And as folks are sitting there speaking the goo gobbledygoo, then you got a whole congregation of folk hollering, amen. But you don't know what he said. So what you saying is, I agree. Wait a minute, you agree with what? What he said. What he say? Whatever he said. Okay. Go ahead.
Seeing he understands not what you saith. For you verily give thanks well, but the other is not edified. I thank my Elohim, I speak with tongues more than you all.
Right. Now why did he need to do that? Because he's going all the way through Europe and Asia Minor. All these Gentiles speak different languages. He's able to then go amongst all these other groups and speak their language. There's no language barrier for him. That is the purpose of speaking in tongues. It's another language. Go ahead.
Yet in the church, I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue.
I'd rather speak 5 words with my understanding than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. So when somebody sitting there starts speaking that goo gobbledygoo, you tell them, all right, speak 10,000 goo gobbledygoo words. And I'm going to speak 5 and we're going to be, go ahead, go. It's going to take a long time to goo gobbledygoo 10,000 words. He's going to be there tomorrow still goo gobbledygooing. Go ahead.
Brethren, be not children in understanding, howbeit in malice be you children, but in understanding be men. In the law it is written, when men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto this people. And yet for all that will they not hear me, saith the Adonai.
Right. I will make this available for people in other languages. I'm going to speak to them in other languages. I'm going to have, how is he doing it? He had his book translated. Go ahead.
Wherefore tongues are for a sign not to them that believe.
Consider this now. For all the people who have done all of this showboating that we done sing. Tongues are for a sign, not to them that believe. Go ahead.
But to them that believe not.
Right. So them a bunch of believers, non-believers, are proclaiming to see a sign that's for non-believers. Yet claiming to you how much faith they got. That's the part you don't see. So you got to look at it for what it is. They're trying to proclaim how much faith they have through their speaking in tongues. Tongues are for unbelievers. Go ahead.
But prophesying serves not for them that believe not, but for them which believe. If therefore the whole church be come together into one place, and all speak with tongues, and there come in those that are unlearned or unbelievers, will they not say that you are mad? But if all prophesy, and there come in one that believes not, or one unlearned, he is convinced of all, he is judged of all. And thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. And so falling down on his face, he will worship Elohim, and report that Elohim is in you of a truth. How is it then, brethren, when you come together, every one of you has a psalm, has a doctrine, has a tongue, has a revelation, has an interpretation? Let all things be done unto edifying.
Yeah, I remember that part when they talking about who want to come up here and testify. Y'all thought that was holy then. Y'all thought that was holy then. Who got a testimony? Give me the mic. No, I've been changed. Right. Y'all thought that was holy. Everybody just passing the mic. Right. Go ahead.
If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by 2, or at the most by 3, and that by course, and let one interpret.
Once again, let one interpret. If ain't nobody saying explaining what it is he's saying, then he need to get out of the room. Go ahead.
But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silence in the church.
Shut your gobbly-gooey mouth up. And let somebody go explain what he's saying. Shut it up. Thus saith this book. So don't go nobody talking about pre-sunk said you need to shut up. No. This book said if there's not an interpreter, let him keep silence in the church. Go ahead.
And let him speak to himself and to Elohim.
Right. Take that goo gobbler goo to yourself. Go over there in that corner and goo gobbler goo yourself all night. But don't be bothering the rest of us with your spirit talk. See? But we thought that was oh so holy. It is amazing how many doctrines you bust up just by reading the word. And stop listening to everybody's so-called take on the word and just read the word. Just read it, make it simple so that it can be understood, and it busts up doctrines left and right. That's why we have to keep reading these things. But that is all that we're going to do for tonight. Enjoy your new moon. Shalom.
Shalom.